My mom left me out of my sister's engagement party, so I planned my wedding without any of them refused to let them come after they begged for an invitation, showing them what it felt like to be left out. My name's Elias. I'm 28. And if you met me, you'd probably say I'm the calm one in any group. I've never been the loud sibling, never been the one to demand attention at the table or interrupt stories to make them about myself. That role always belonged to my younger sister, Camille, 2 years younger, impossibly loud, and somehow always the center of my parents' universe. Growing up, I learned to stay quiet. When Camille screamed and cried over getting the blue plate instead of the pink one, Mom would swap mine out without even asking. When she forgot her homework or got a bad grade, Dad would say, "She's just got a creative mind." If I brought home straight A's, it was, "That's what we expect from you, Elias." It was subtle at first. Little things that made me feel more like the supporting actor in my own life. But over time, those little things piled into a mountain of quiet resentment I never let anyone see. Not until recently. Camille got engaged last year to a guy named Ryan. Generic finance bro, the kind who acts like he invented brunch. We weren't close. He once mistook me for a waiter at our cousin's wedding. I let it go. Camille loved him, and as much as I wanted to roll my eyes at the whole thing, I kept my mouth shut. I even congratulated her when she announced it at Christmas, even though she did it in the middle of me telling everyone about a promotion I'd just gotten. She cut me off halfway through. "Sorry, but this can't wait," she squealed, flashing the ring around. Mom shrieked. Dad teared up. My news was forgotten in 10 seconds flat. That night, I went home with a knot in my stomach and a fake smile still plastered on my face. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd ask me to help plan the engagement party, or at least be part of it. But the next few weeks passed in silence. No texts, no calls, no invitations. I figured they were just slow with the planning. Then I saw the photos on Facebook. My sister standing in the middle of a rented garden space holding champagne flanked by family. My family, my parents, my cousins, even my Aunt Celine, who lives 3 hours away and always claims she's too tired for parties. Everyone was there. Everyone but me. I waited a full day before calling my mom. I needed time to calm down to keep from sounding angry. She picked up on the second ring, all cheerful and breathy like she'd just finished laughing. "Elias, everything okay? I saw the pictures," I said. My voice sounded hollow even to me. "Oh," she said. Then silence. "You didn't invite me." There was a pause, and then her voice hardened ever so slightly. "Well, I didn't think you'd want to come. You've always had this thing when it comes to Camille." "It's her moment, Elias. We just didn't want drama." My ears rang. Drama. What drama have I ever caused? "You know what I mean," she said lightly, like brushing off a bug. "You always seem to sulk around these things. You've never liked being outshined. And Camille deserves a peaceful celebration." I couldn't even form words. My brain was still trying to register that my own mother thought I'd be jealous that I'd ruined my sister's engagement party just by showing up. So I said the only thing that came to me, the only thing I could say without my voice cracking. "Then you won't mind missing my wedding too?" There was a pause, the longest pause I'd ever heard from her. Then she laughed. Not loud, not cruel, just a dry, awkward chuckle, like she didn't know what else to say. "Elias, don't be ridiculous." "I'm not," I said calmly. "Have a nice evening." I hung up. And for the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like the quiet, forgotten sibling. I felt angry and focused. I had been quietly dating someone for nearly 2 years. Her name is Mariah. She's brilliant, kind, and the one person who never made me feel like I had to compete to be seen. We'd already talked about marriage. I hadn't proposed yet, but I'd been planning to quietly without a big crowd. After that call with my mom, though, something changed. A month later, I proposed. Mariah said yes, and I started planning something I never thought I'd do. A wedding without my family. We didn't post anything online. We didn't send out announcements. I called Aunt Celine, privately told her the whole story, and she hugged me through the phone. "You have every right, Eli," she said. "You deserve to be celebrated, not stepped on." She helped us pick a venue. It was modest, a cozy old manor house about an hour outside the city. Elegant without being over the top. Mariah's family was excited. They helped with everything. Flowers, cake, invitations. I'd never felt so supported in my life. I sent out physical invitations carefully addressed with a simple RSVP card tucked inside, but none went to my parents, none to Camille. I didn't block them. I didn't announce anything online. I just let the silence linger the same way they'd let it linger with me. 3 weeks later, I got a text from my cousin Lily. It was a photo, my wedding invitation sitting on Aunt Celine's kitchen counter. The caption read, "Your mom just saw this. She's not doing well." And then my phone started ringing. It was my mother. I didn't pick up. Then my father, then Camille. I let every call go to voicemail. And then at 11:07 p.m., I got a message that just read, "Elias, please." We didn't mean it like that. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart was racing, but not from guilt, from clarity. They were only reaching out because they'd been excluded for once. They had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, I woke up to 5 more missed calls and 2 voicemails from my mom. Her voice cracking one message starting with "please call me," and ending in muffled sobs. The other was quieter. "We're your family, Elias. This isn't right. You're being cruel." That word "cruel" stuck with me like a splinter. It echoed in my head while I brushed my teeth, while I buttoned my shirt, while I poured coffee into the travel mug Mariah had given me months ago with "future groom" etched in gold cursive. Cruel. As if I hadn't spent the past decade swallowing my pride while they celebrated Camille like she was the only child who mattered. As if I hadn't smiled through insult after insult, been ignored through every birthday, every promotion, every meaningful moment in my life that they'd brushed aside like it was background noise to the Camille show. Cruel, no. This was the first time I'd simply stepped out of their shadow. By that afternoon, the group chat, the dreaded family chat that I'd muted long ago, lit up like wildfire. I didn't even open it at first. I saw the previews. Did anyone else get this? "Wait, Elias is getting married. Why weren't we invited?" "Celine, did you know?" One message from Camille stood out. "This is Petty Eli. You're acting like a child." "Petty, right?" I typed, then erased, then typed again, before finally sending a single reply. "I'm simply respecting the boundaries you all set. You made it clear where I stand in this family. I'm not bitter, just done pretending it doesn't hurt." I turned off notifications after that. I didn't need their approval. I wasn't doing this to make a point. I was doing this because, for once, I wanted to start a new chapter without dragging the old pain with me. But of course, my family wasn't going to let it go that easily. A few days later, Mariah and I were meeting with the florist when my dad showed up. No warning, no text, just walked into the shop like he owned the place. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. But there was that same stern tightness in his jaw that I remembered from childhood. The look that said, "You're disappointing me." "Can we talk?" he asked. Mariah glanced at me, unsure. "It's okay," I said to her. "Give us a minute." She nodded and stepped outside. My dad sat down across from me, folding his hands on the little round table. "This has gone far enough, Elias. Has it?" I asked evenly. "You've made your point. You're upset. Fine, but punishing your mother like this, leaving her out of her only son's wedding." I blinked. Only son. First time I'd heard him refer to me like that in years. "I didn't set out to punish anyone," I said. "But you all left me out of Camille's engagement. Didn't even tell me it was happening." "That's different," he muttered. "Camille needed what I snapped louder than I intended. A perfect day. And you thought I'd ruin it just by showing up." He looked away. I kept going. "You made me feel like a threat to my own sister's happiness, like I was poison. And you never once asked how that felt." He sighed. "We didn't think it would matter so much to you. You've always been independent. That's code for we thought you'd take it and stay quiet. And I always did." He was silent again. I could see in his eyes that he didn't know what to say. Not because he didn't have excuses, but because this was the first time he'd ever been asked to listen to me, instead of assuming I'd just go along with it. "We're not trying to hurt you," he finally said, quieter this time. "We just thought you didn't care." I stood up. "That's the problem. You never thought to check." He looked up at me. "Can we at least come to the wedding?" I paused for a second. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe he meant it. But then I remembered every year I spent watching them cheer for Camille while pretending I wasn't there. Every time they turned birthdays and holidays into background noise unless she was the center, every phone call I initiated, never the other way around. I took a deep breath. "I think maybe this time you need to feel what it's like to be left out." He didn't argue, just nodded slowly and walked out of the shop. Later that evening, I told Mariah everything. She didn't say much, just wrapped her arms around me and rested her head on my shoulder. "You didn't do anything wrong," she whispered. And I believed her. But things didn't end there. A week later, a photo started circulating through the family. A blurry image of the invitation on Celine's fridge. Someone posted it on Facebook. Then another cousin commented on it. Suddenly, my engagement, the one I tried to keep quiet, was out in the open. People were texting again. Not just my parents, but distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. Some saying congratulations, others accusing me of being cruel, selfish, ungrateful. Then Camille posted something on her Instagram story. A long paragraph over a black background. Some people would rather burn bridges than admit they've been toxic. It's sad when your own brother is so bitter he excludes his family from his wedding just to get attention. I stared at it for a long time. Then I screenshotted it and added my own post the next morning. A photo of Mariah and me laughing in the sun holding hands in front of the venue we'd chosen. No caption, just the date. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to because the next message I received wasn't from Camille. It was from my mom. A single sentence. Please don't do this, Elias. Please let us come. I stared at that message for a long time. And then something happened that changed everything. Something I hadn't expected. Something that made me realize this story wasn't just about a wedding anymore. It was about finally reclaiming something I hadn't had in years. And it all started with a knock at my door. It was a quiet Saturday morning when it happened. One of those slow golden mornings where sunlight pools in the corners of the living room and everything feels still. Mariah had gone out early for a final dress fitting with her sister, and I was home alone sipping coffee and sweats going over the final guest list. The knock was soft, hesitant, like whoever was on the other side didn't know whether they really wanted to be there. I opened the door and froze. Camille. She looked different. Not physically, she still had that same perfectly put-together look, the kind that screams effortless while clearly taking hours. But there was something in her eyes, something I hadn't seen since we were kids. Uncertainty, maybe even guilt. We stood there in silence for a long moment before she spoke. "Can I come in?" I didn't say yes. I just stepped back and let her in. She walked past me like she didn't know what to do with her hands, stopping just shy of the couch, hovering like a ghost. "Nice place," she said, then caught herself. "I mean, of course it is. You've always had good taste." I didn't respond. I just leaned against the wall and waited. She turned to face me, taking a breath like she was diving underwater. "Look, I know you're mad, and I get it. I do, but I didn't know Mom didn't invite you to the engagement party. I swear." My arms crossed without thinking. "You didn't notice I wasn't there?" Her jaw tightened. I figured you were busy. Or maybe you were just doing your usual too cool for this thing." I almost laughed. Right, the same way I was too cool for every other event I was quietly left out of. She winced. "That's not fair, isn't it?" I said. "You hijacked my promotion announcement at Christmas. You've taken over every birthday, every holiday, and I never once said a word. Not until now." She looked down at her shoes, biting her bottom lip like she did when we were kids and she got caught sneaking candy. "I didn't mean to make everything about me," she said quietly. "It's just that's how Mom and Dad are. They always push me to be the star. I guess I got used to it." "That doesn't make it okay," I said. "They trained you to act like I was optional, and you never questioned it." Silence settled between us again. I could hear the hum of the fridge, the occasional creak of the floorboards beneath her heels. Then she finally looked up. "Why didn't you tell me about the wedding?" There was no malice in her voice, just confusion, hurt even. I wanted peace. I said I wanted one thing in my life that didn't come with baggage, didn't come with expectations or backhanded comments or being made to feel like I don't belong. I wanted a clean start. She nodded slowly, her eyes glossing with unshed tears. "You could have told me. Just me." I shook my head. "I didn't trust you." That hurt her. I could see it. And maybe part of me wanted it too. Just a little. "I'm not asking you to invite Mom," she said, "or Dad. I'm not even asking you to forgive me right now, but can I be there, please? Just me." It was the first time in years I'd heard her voice without that smug spotlight-soaked tone. Just Camille, my sister asking for something without expecting it to be handed to her. I didn't answer, not right away, because just as I opened my mouth to respond, my phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at the screen and my stomach dropped. It was a notification from Facebook, a post from my mother. Public. When your only son decides to exclude his family from the happiest day of his life, you have to wonder where you went wrong. We loved him, we raised him, and now he wants to erase us. I just hope he comes to his senses before it's too late. I stared at it, then showed Camille. Her eyes widened. She posted this today. I nodded. And just like that, the moment shattered. The look on Camille's face shifted. She looked tired, angry even, but not at me. She promised she'd stay out of it. She muttered. She said she'd let me try. I couldn't believe it. Not because my mom had done something manipulative. I'd seen that playbook 100 times. But because it suddenly became clear that this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about control, about appearances, about Mom and Dad needing the narrative to be in their hands. Camille sank onto the couch and buried her face in her hands. She's not even upset about missing the wedding. She's upset she doesn't get to show off at it. I didn't say anything because she was right. She looked up at me red-eye. What do you want to do? I picked up my phone slowly and looked at the Facebook post again. 100 likes, dozens of comments from extended family. People choosing sides. I don't know yet, I said. And I didn't, because as much as I wanted to shut the door on them completely, part of me wondered if that door was already being ripped off its hinges, but I wasn't going to let them spin their version of the story unchallenged. Not this time. And as Camille sat silently on my couch looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, a new idea started to take root. One they would never see coming. One they would never be able to spin. And it all started with a guest list to be specific, that I was about to update. Camille sat with her elbows on her knees, rubbing her temples like she was nursing a migraine. I could feel the weight of her silence as I paced the living room. The Facebook post still sat open on my phone screen like a slap across the face, a reminder that no matter how quiet I tried to be, my family always found a way to turn the narrative against me. She made it public. I said finally, she made me public. Turn this into some kind of sob story so she can play the victim again. Camille didn't argue. She just shook her head. She told me she wouldn't say anything. I told her to let me try first. She doesn't care what you say, I muttered. She never did. That wasn't fair. I knew that, but it felt true in that moment. My chest burned with a strange mix of vindication and sadness. It was everything I'd expected, but it still hurt. I sat down across from her. The idea I'd been nursing, the one that had begun forming the second I saw my mom's post, finally started to solidify into something real, something bold. I want to change the guest list, I said. Camille looked up startled. To what I stared at her, weighing the risk. I'll let you come. And Aunt Celine and Lily, that's it. She blinked. You're serious. You're the only one who showed up to say anything in person. The only one who owned up to what's been going on. You don't deserve to be punished for their choices. Camille nodded slowly. Thank you, she whispered, voice cracking. But I said, holding up a hand, don't expect forgiveness overnight. This isn't some magical reunion. It's one small step. I get that, she said, standing. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have stood up for you years ago. I didn't reply. I just nodded once and she left. That night, I showed Mariah the post. She read it slowly, then looked at me. Do you want to respond? She asked. I do, I said, but not online. I want to respond in person on our terms. Her brow furrowed. What are you thinking? I smiled for the first time in hours. I want to make our wedding about us, not them. But if they're going to paint me as the villain for taking control of my life, then maybe it's time I embrace it just once. Mariah didn't even hesitate. Then let's make this wedding unforgettable. The day of the wedding arrived with a strange electric calm. The sky was a perfect blue, the air light and warm. We'd chosen to hold it outdoors under the arching trees of the manor garden. Flowers lined the pathway. Soft piano music drifted from the speakers and guests began to arrive with gentle excitement in their voices. People who mattered. People who knew both of us, supported us, saw us. Celine arrived first, dabbing her eyes as she hugged me. Your parents are losing their minds right now, she whispered with a smirk. Camille told me your mom threw her phone across the room this morning. Maybe now she knows how it feels, I said with a small shrug. Then Camille arrived for the first time in her life. She didn't try to steal the spotlight. She wore a simple pastel dress, minimal makeup, and hugged Mariah like they were old friends. She didn't speak much, just sat quietly with Celine and Lily near the front, watching everything with a look I didn't recognize on her face. Maybe pride, maybe guilt, maybe both. The ceremony was short, but beautiful. When I saw Mariah walking down the aisle, every bitter thought, every ache from the past dissolved into something soft. She was radiant. We said our vows under a canopy of leaves, kissed to the sound of our closest friends cheering, and walked back down the aisle hand in hand. We didn't need a crowd. We just needed each other. At the reception, people laughed, danced, toasted us with heartfelt speeches. I thought about making a speech of my own, a subtle, veiled message to the family that had abandoned me, something poetic. But I didn't. Instead, I focused on the joy around me. For once, I didn't feel like a background character. I was living my story. It wasn't until the cake was being served that the real surprise came. A waiter approached me cautiously with a small envelope. This was just delivered at the front gate, he said. They said it was urgent. I frowned and took it, stepping aside to open it. Inside was a handwritten note. My mother's handwriting. Elias, we saw the photos. We saw the post. We know we've hurt you more than we ever realized. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know something. You were never unwanted. We were just too blind, too foolish to show you the love you deserved. I made mistakes. I made a lot of them. But today I saw what you've built, and I've never been more proud of you. I hope one day you'll let us try again, Mom. I stood there for a while, the paper trembling in my hands. Mariah walked over, concern in her eyes. Everything okay? I handed her the note. She read it, then looked at me. What do you want to do? I didn't answer right away. I stared out at the garden, the guests laughing, the golden light of sunset settling over everything like a blessing. My mother's note didn't undo years of damage. It didn't erase the pain or the absence or the way they'd made me feel small, but it was a start. A late fumbling human start. I don't know yet, I said. But I know one thing. What's that? I turned to her, took her hand, and smiled. This is the happiest day of my life, and nothing is going to take that from me. A month later, we were back from our honeymoon, sifting through wedding photos when the doorbell rang. Mariah answered. I heard her talking softly to someone, then footsteps coming toward me. My mom stood there in the hallway. No makeup, no perfect hair, just jeans, a cardigan, and red eyes. She didn't say anything, just held out a small wooden box. I opened it. Inside was every childhood photo of me I thought had been lost. Birthday parties, school awards, a handmade Father's Day card I'd written for my dad at age 7. She looked up at me, her voice shaking. I found this in the attic last week. Thought you'd thrown it all away, but I couldn't. I didn't say a word. I just nodded and took the box. It would take time, maybe years, maybe longer. But for the first time in my life, the spotlight didn't matter. I wasn't the extra anymore.